Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the StreamKick Podcast, where we cover all the latest news and highlights from the live streaming industry. My name is Camper. I'm the founder and CEO of StreamKick, and today I'm joined by StreamKick co-founder, the omnipresent RhinoPause.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And also StreamKick Podcast mainstay and world-renowned YouTube tycoon, RoboKast.
How is everyone doing today?
And of course, our show would not be complete without the very man who aspires to be everything that you all cannot be, StreamKick Community Manager, Ace.
Hi guys, what's up?
Hey guys, good to have you. So haircut season is upon us. States are reopening. We're going back. Who's gotten a haircut?
I've changed my outlook on haircuts. This is the best time of my life to grow out my hair. Think about it. When else can I grow out my hair and it looks terrible and people, understand it?
They understand it. They compliment you on it. It does look pretty good though, honestly. Like you could rock that for a while. I think you'd be all right.
I'm going to go for it. You've inspired me.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. We have some really awesome stuff lined up this week. Speaking of haircut season and coronavirus, we talked about this the last few weeks, but it's interesting because it seems like every week there's just something new about this as this industry is just exploding with more and more people staying home, more and more people watching live stream content. This week, we're going to start off with something similar, but a little bit different. Non-gaming content is one of the fastest growing categories in live streaming right now. Categories, and when we say that, we're talking about like just chatting, IRL, podcasting, music, things like that. You've heard us talk about it a little bit on previous episodes, but we actually have some data to support it now. Just chatting and other non-gaming categories on Twitch in April grew by about 140% year over year. That puts just chatting in particular as the number 2 directory on the entire Twitch directory overall. 1.65 billion hours consumed. Now there's a huge number one, but to put it in context, that one category has 3 times the total viewership of the entirety of YouTube gaming. So think about that for a minute. And this has nothing to do with gaming. And the crazy thing about this is that Twitch started with non-gaming content when it was Justin TV and almost went out of business a couple of times because nobody wanted to watch that. And now it's growing up into this huge thing that's, I want to say overtaking the platform, but it's definitely overtaking a lot of other directories. So this being the case, obviously it sort of changes things up in terms of you're a brand, you're a company, you're an advertiser. You're looking at Twitch and you're saying all these eyeballs are here. The demographic we want is here. And then next thing you know, there's a 180 and they're not watching gaming content anymore. They're watching just chatting in IRL and just people hanging out doing whatever it is that they do. So is this going to open it up to more brands, more sponsors, more advertisers? How does this shape up? Rhino, I'm curious particularly to hear from you just because this is kind of your world, this whole like business thing, but like, how do you see this shaking out for Twitch?
I think it's something that Twitch needs to continue to look into, continue to see if they could expand and grow, different areas outside of gaming. But, I think until you can quantify that or qualify that and give and provide some really good metrics to advertisers, it'll be interesting to see how, if that takes off from an advertising standpoint.
Yeah. Robo, I'm curious to hear what you had to think too, because you're a YouTuber, like you earn a living making videos and you can only do that because you have sponsorships and ads and you monetize your videos. All of your stuff is essentially gaming related, if I recall, but yeah. Like you've also got like a kind of like a business channel and stuff like that. Like how do you see this playing out from like the YouTube angle?
Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I feel like 99% of just chatting is just e-girls. It's like, oh, guess what, guys? I'm wearing a low-cut tank top. Come watch me talk for 3 hours. And looking at it from that perspective and looking at the way that advertisers deal with YouTube content, I would be very surprised if advertisers wanted to sponsor people like that. Because on YouTube, you could say a cuss word and advertisers are like, oh my God, what a sinner. I am never going to sponsor this guy. But yet, the stuff that happens on Twitch is a lot more controversial. The people are literally like a lot. I'm not saying everybody, but a large portion of just chatting are girls, being flirty and looking for attention, which again, good for them. Not a bad thing. They're being successful, but I just don't see how any brands would want to actually promote something like that.
Yeah, or just like really specific types of brands. And then the scope is so narrowed, it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, maybe some
Right.
like female influencer brands or something like that. Because the thing is, the type of people who watch female streamers are pretty much consistently dudes. And it's going to be weird for a female to be promoting like a product aimed towards their audience, which is, you see what I'm saying? Because their audience is completely the opposite of what they are. So I really don't know how that would play. It's definitely an interesting perspective, and I'm curious to see how it works.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you used to go to the club and it was ladies' night, and you get there and it's all dudes.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? Like I get what you mean. So wasn't it like, it was only like a year ago that YouTube like kind of got into like a world of shit over advertising, right? Wasn't that like last year?
Dude, I don't even know. I think it was like maybe 2 years ago. There's been a couple of like mini adpocalypses, but I believe the main one was when PewDiePie did something controversial. I think that's what started that one, but it kind of blew over. But because of that, YouTube changed a lot of policies.
Yeah, and I know, and then they had the whole issue with like the what was it? The like YouTube Kids videos, and then
COPA.
they found out that like there were like sexual predators like
Yeah.
using those in like this underground form of communication or whatever it was. It was like really elaborate yet not elaborate at the same time thing. It was really, I don't know, it was crazy. But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess if you can kind of use YouTube as sort of this pseudo analog for what Twitch is going through right now, where it's becoming, from a content standpoint, maybe a little more like YouTube, because YouTube obviously has a ton of non-gaming content. So it'll be interesting to see, like, and I wonder too, last week we were talking about the Safety Advisory Council. I'm wondering if that is kind of coming about because of this. Like if Twitch is talking to or getting contacted by so many brands, so many advertisers now, that they're like, oh shit, we need to get this in order and figure this out. And then they do what Twitch typically does and just kind of handles it in a really weird way and creates this council instead of just, making a mandate on their platform or whatever. Now, so esports specifically is the largest category on Twitch, just in general. It's always been the largest, always tracks the most viewers and whatnot. So I wonder, and Ace, I want to kick this over to you because you're the esports guy, but is esports in jeopardy now because of this change, or do you think it's going to continue to thrive because traditional sports have kind of taken a back seat? Like what happens when traditional sports come back? Is there that shift where esports kind of dies off again? Or do you think it just, continues to just go nuts? And do you think this whole like IRL thing is going to impact that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say. Ultimately, I think that the important thing for esports is that it has gotten so many new viewers and it has gotten so many people who, being so desperate for something to fill their time now, have explored this new thing that is extremely present and extremely, doing very well. So while it might peak off a little bit, I think the growth has been strong pretty consistently before this all happened. And I think that that's going to continue afterwards as well. And it's just going to be, it might peak off for a little bit when people say, hey, there's sports on TV now that I want to watch that I haven't watched in a little bit. But ultimately, I think it's gained a good base from this.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, who knows when this coronavirus thing is going to, I mean, I don't think it's ever going to go back to normal per se, like what we knew before. I think it'll get close. But when this is all kind of like past a little bit and we start getting back to, a pseudo form of normal, you can't help but think there's going to be people who explored esports for the first time because of this, and they're hooked. They're never going to leave. I think back to like when it was just starting off and I would watch like really early league matches being shoutcasted, and there was only like 2 or 3 people that could even do it back then at like some reasonable level. And now I think, like, if I was new to esports and I was coming in and watching a league match, for instance, or a CSGO match, to see like the level of professionalism that exists there now, and just how crazy engaging that content is, just the production value and everything else has changed so much. If I was a pure sports traditionalist and I turned to esports because of coronavirus, I mean, I would go back, but I don't know that I would go back to the same way it was before. Like, I would definitely work that esports viewership back into my like content consumption schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, professionalism is one thing, but I think one thing that is really driving people that nobody really expected is just the energy and competition that you really do get out of esports. And I think a lot of people look in from the outside and say, well, that can't really, there's no way it can just demonstrate the same energy and the casting and just the whole vibe of a competitive sporting environment. But I think a lot of people have just dipped their toes in and seen, wow, this is actually really cool.
Yeah, I think one thing that esports really has I mean, it has a lot going for it, but one thing that really stands out is the pace. It has a pace unlike anything else, right? Like, even some of the fastest paced traditional sports like hockey and things like that, esports, like, you can get into a match that can last 20 minutes, it can last an hour, and they don't cut away. Like, you get the whole match no matter what. There's a bit of that unknown, but the pace of it is always, it's always engaging. There's always something that's going on there. So I think that's going to keep a lot of people. Um, Real quick, just going back to the YouTube thing, Robo, from your standpoint, like, in this article, they were talking about growth, and we've got another story we're going to talk about a little bit later that also talks about, platform growth more specifically. But are YouTubers seeing a lot of this growth as well that's coming in because of coronavirus?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Um, I personally am not. I'm actually in a kind of a dry spell with my channel, but that's my own fault because long story short, but my upload schedule fell apart. Regardless, I personally don't think YouTube is really seeing that much more watch time, because here's the way I look at it. I may be completely wrong, but watching a Twitch stream is a lot more of a commitment than watching a YouTube video. I know a lot of people, most of my friends, a lot of people who watch my content, they get home from school, they get home from work, they pull up YouTube, watch a couple of videos, get off. Twitch streaming is different. You're not just going to like tune into a Twitch stream for, 5 to 10 minutes and then like pause and then come back for another 5 to 10 minutes. And because of the way it is, and like YouTube's a lot easier to consume. So I personally, again, may be wrong, but I don't think YouTube's really seeing that much more content being watched.
Yeah, it's that whole notion of like consume at your leisure, right? So I started I'm gonna just go ahead and say this. I started watching the content nuke that Ethan did
Oh my
on
god,
Keemstar.
dude, that stuff is so annoying to watch.
It's so I had to watch it. I just had to watch it. I don't know why. I really wanted to, and it was crazy because I sat through the first one, and then he did like the Fallout video, so like the sequel to it, and I was really tired. Not because the content was bad, just because I was tired. And I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna pause this. I'll come back and watch it later. And I don't feel guilty about that at all. But I can't tell you how many times it's been late, and I've forced myself to stay up late because I'm watching, like Coconut Bee or someone like that do this crazy raid and Rust, and I'm like, watching this on a VOD is nothing like watching it live. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not the same thing.
There's definitely way more thrill watching something live because, like, when you're editing, you can cut anything you want out. So, like, obviously, YouTubers are going to try their best to make the content as exciting as possible. And, like, yeah, sometimes it's cool just to see the straight excitement and nothing else. But the build up and, the periods of time between the excitement in a game is what makes it so good. And that's why Twitch is an amazing platform. And it's just such a different experience than watching YouTube. But
Yeah.
again, I just don't see how this would have any impact on YouTube videos. Unless you could say the argument that, oh, there's more people creating now, which I could totally see, which then means that more people are watching. But with like pre-established YouTubers, I really don't feel like a lot has changed. But I may be wrong.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get in a little bit later, like I said, to like specific platform stats. So we'll hit pause on that for now. But I think those are some really interesting insights. Something else that's kind of crazy. So there's this other, I think we talked about in episode 1. There's this other streaming platform called Caffeine. I think it's caffeine.tv. and it was founded by some former Apple folks. I forget exactly what they did at Apple, but they were upper tier executives at Apple, and it's based on blockchain. I described it before in an earlier episode, and I probably didn't do a good job, but you can go research it and figure it out. But it's different in a lot of ways. But one thing they've done is they've drawn this line in the sand, and they said, hey, yeah, you can stream traditionally with us. They signed PewDiePie, and then he left, went back to YouTube. But they drew this line in the sand and said, yeah, if you want to stream games, it's fine. We're not going to stop you from doing that. But they're really trying to focus more on like the entertainment factor of the content. And so to that effect, they've made it clear that they want to acquire, from a talent standpoint, performers, musicians, artists, that type of thing, and just do something a little bit different. So this week they actually announced that they signed Drake, the rapper, which I thought was interesting, being that he did the whole thing with Ninja before Ninja went to Mixer. That wasn't, I want to say that was Ninja's like breakout or anything, but that definitely helped. I mean, that got late night talk shows talking about live streaming and Ninja and Fortnite and everything. But anyway, so he signed a exclusive streaming deal. Now this is where it's interesting. He's doing this because he's bringing a show that he previously, it's not like it's his show. So it's called the Ultimate Rap League. And it's actually a really interesting concept. So basically it's this show where it's like battle rap culture, right? So they just get a bunch of people together and they just battle rap, and it's kind of like a game show style where like they compete off of. Think of like 8 Mile, right?
Is it like Wild and Out? I don't know if you know what it is or not.
Yeah, but like real talent type
of
thing.
Like more serious, I guess.
Yeah, like more. Yeah, think like 8 Mile, but without like people getting shot up.
Is there Mom Spaghetti in it?
I'm sure. I mean, there has to be, right?
I'm not watching it unless there's Mom Spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have a rap battle without Mom Spaghetti. I mean, it just wouldn't be right. Drake's bringing this show to Caffeine, okay? And the interesting thing was the Caffeine executives, when they were questioned for the story, they're like, yeah, Drake's gonna have a channel. We don't know if he's ever gonna stream on it, but he's bringing this show to us. So yeah, they signed Drake, but then I'm like, all right, did they sign him because he's bringing the show? Like, what exactly is it? It's just like a namesake thing. So I don't really know, but it got me thinking, like, where are these artists otherwise primarily engaging with their audience? Is it mainly like on Instagram or whatever? Like, where does that kind of stuff happen? Because this feels to me like, if I were Drake, I mean, he's already huge. He doesn't have to stream, but he sees what happens when he does. I would do it from time to time. So like, do these artists even care about engaging with their audience? Like, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, I do see a lot, like, especially with quarantine, I've seen a lot of artists stream on Instagram, but a lot of the artists I follow on Instagram aren't even like the giant ones like Drake. I mean, I'm pretty sure I read something a while ago that said Drake was the most streamed artist of the decade, which is insane.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I don't really watch a lot of like the super popular people. I like a lot of like smaller artists and stuff. But I feel like if they did do it, it would be on Instagram because that's where most of them have a huge following.
Yeah. It feels like one of, like, because of coronavirus, it feels like they're doing it because they have to. It's like, hey, I need to stay relevant, so I'll just do whatever I can to, keep getting attention. But from a business standpoint, Rhino, I wanted to kick this one over to you, but Caffeine's clearly differentiating themselves from a content perspective. They're signing a rapper, right? Like this, and they straight up just said, like, dude's probably not going to stream. Is that, given what we talked about in our first story and how IRL content, non-gaming content is like going crazy, do you think all along this like differentiation strategy that Caffeine has been pursuing was actually right? Like they saw it. I mean, they didn't predict coronavirus, right? But like they saw the writing on the wall.
Well, I think it's a little early to tell. I mean, I think from a platform standpoint, they have to do something different. I mean, there's no sense trying to recreate the next Twitch or the next Mixer. I mean, or Facebook. I mean, they're all doing a similar type thing with a little different bells and whistles. So from a content standpoint, I think as a platform, they are pursuing the right angle. It'll be interesting to see how much traction they get. I mean, I don't know if we've read a lot of statistics on how much of an audience or viewership they have at the moment. Have we?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I don't really think they talk about it very much.
And I mean, I haven't used it myself, so I can't even say from a firsthand standpoint whether it's content worth viewing or something I'd enjoy watching.
So where do you normally consume your rap battles?
Yeah, I like to do it in person. I like to try to find off the beaten path rap battles. If there's things my friends can invite me to, I'll certainly and late at night in some undisclosed places.
Wait, you do it in undisclosed places, bro?
Yeah.
I thought it was cool just to rap battle old ladies in the street. That's where I do it.
He saves that for the grocery store when he's trying to get a good spot in line. It's like, yo, I'll battle you for next spot in line.
Yo, bro,
My ice
rap
cream's
battle
melting.
for social distancing 6 foot apart spot.
So I don't know. Yeah, it'll be. I don't know. I don't know if I could predict the future, but it seems. I think the right way is to do something different, and they certainly are. So I think it's just something that we need to keep an eye on and see how well they do.
Well, I think there's one thing that history has told us that is always repeats itself is that specialization wins. Trying to be everything to everyone ultimately fails, right? And I'm not saying Twitch is trying to do that. Twitch's growth has largely been organic. In fact, Twitch was so resistant to IRL streaming that used to get banned for it. So, despite Twitch's resistance to it, what did Ian Malcolm say in Jurassic Park? Life finds a way, something like that. IRL finds a way. I think like Caffeine is like maybe the next evolution of that. So I think I'm encouraged by it. Ace, if Drake streamed tomorrow, would you watch him?
I think I would. I think everybody would. Now my question is what is Caffeine's capacity to sign more streamers or more rappers? Like, I mean, they're a smaller platform, and this is obviously a huge step for them. But will they continue on this path and sign or encourage more people to come there for that exact reason?
I mean, it could be, right? I don't. I'm torn on this because of the whole like him bringing a show that he kind of like prior to this story. The only thing I was able to find about him being affiliated with this rap battle thing was like in 2015 he was on an episode, but just like this story where he doesn't stream, he didn't battle, and so and at the end of the show, like he gets called out and challenged by this dude, and he's just like, yo, we'll talk about it. And then the crowd is just like, the crowd was pissed. They're like, dude, like, come on, like, throw down.
I mean, yeah.
So, and then of course the guy who challenged him was like, I respect Drake. He doesn't have to do this if he doesn't want to. Like, he's got better things to do. And the crowd's just like, dude, shut up. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think it's cool that we have a platform that's doing different stuff, and I think it's cool that these guys obviously, they have a great background, they have good history, and they're extraordinarily well funded. I forget what their last round was, but I just remember when I read it, it was just something crazy.
I think they've raised about 150 million.
Yeah, like that's not bad. Cool. All right, so this next story, I gotta say, when I first read this, initially I was like, this is not gonna make the cut. And then I read it, and then I reread it, and then it clicked why this is important and why it matters. So Twitch, or I should say Amazon in this case, has teamed up with old school video game company Bandai Namco. You probably, a lot of people listening to this probably have heard that name before, but one of the games they're most famous for is Pac-Man. Now everybody knows what Pac-Man is. So they're releasing like the modern day era Pac-Man, but it's not like traditional Pac-Man, of course. It's called Pac-Man Live Studio. Now, it's kind of like what Nintendo did with Super Mario Maker, where there's like a game, but then you can also like design your own stuff. And we've seen from Twitch, like Super Mario Maker has resulted in some like really crazy stuff. Like, like when you take a community of creatively minded people and you unlock IP like Pac-Man or like Mario or like Pokemon, and you let them do their own thing, you tend to get really cool. You get a lot of trash, but you tend to get some really cool stuff out of that. That's what they're going for here. Now, here's the interesting part, and where I think the story is. in order to play the game, you have to go to the games directory on Twitch and you play it in your browser through the Twitch directory. So it's a completely different experience for the consumption of the game itself, not just watching, but if you want to play, you have to go to Twitch and you have to go to that directory in order to do it. So it's going to have all the Pac-Man stuff that like a traditionalist Pac-Man or Mrs. Pac-Man enthusiast would have, right? It's going to have, all that stuff too, but then it's going to have the ability to, create your own maps. And I think what's also interesting about this is that it's rumored that Amazon is working on a Google Stadia competitor, and it's highly likely that this seemingly innocuous little title, Pac-Man Live Studio, could be a dry run for them to see exactly what that type of service, how it would play out in a different way. So I think it's pretty cool. It's an interesting analog to what Google's doing with Stadia. Have any of you guys tried Google Stadia yet? I haven't.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I feel like that's what most people say. I know when it launched, it was like...
Oh, it was bad.
I think it still is. Like, I think a lot of people still think it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I played, there was like I don't know what it was called, but there's like a Microsoft version of Stadia. It was pretty much the same thing. You like connect your phone to like an external controller and it has cloud gaming. I don't remember what it was called, but I tried it at E3 and I thought it was pretty cool. But I don't know if this is a problem Stadia had, but with that one, there was like a fat delay with everything. Like every single thing had like a 2 millisecond, I don't know how long, but it had like a considerable delay.
Enough to notice.
Yeah, it made it miserable to play. And I don't know, Stadia it sounds cool, but it doesn't seem like it would work very well.
Yeah, I think it could, right? It feels like one of those things. It feels like virtual reality was in the 90s, right? Where it came out, everyone was like, "Oh, this is really cool," but actually it kind of sucks. But you can see how it could be cool.
Yeah.
And now we're getting to the point where it's, finally getting there 20 years later and people are like, "Yeah, okay, VR is still not quite there, but it's a lot better than it was then, and it definitely could catch on." I feel like that's kind of this cloud gaming thing, how it's going to be as well. To me, it just doesn't make sense how you're able to do all the things that you would be, as at least how it's advertised, do all the same things you can do with your PC, but over an internet connection. Like, I just don't, that's really hard for me to like grasp. But I want to kick this question over to you, Robo, because I think you were the one who mentioned this before, but do you think this is, one of the first signs that Twitch is kind of maybe starting to build up their own kind of walled garden here, that they're going to, this is just a test, dipping their toes in the water in a pretty innocent way, but there's probably something else behind it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, especially now there's Steam, there's Xbox Game Pass, there's the Epic Game Store, there's, whatever other launchers and platforms. There's a billion different things these days.
Yeah.
And Amazon being Amazon, they have to have their foot in the water with everything. And since they already have such a big community of gamers, this is 100% a test run. Like it's pretty obvious to me. I feel like this is a way for them to kind of like see what people think of this whole idea, see if StreamKick mentions it on their podcast. And once they see that we do, they're going to be like, "Oh my God, we have to do it." And then they're
It's
probably
funny you say that.
Deals.
It's funny you say that because Jeff Bezos is a regular listener of the StreamKick podcast. So I
Yeah,
promise
yeah.
I'm giving a shout out on this episode.
That's why I figured I'd subtly mention that.
Yeah, it was good.
But one thing that I will mention is, I don't know if you're familiar, but there is a such thing as Amazon Game Studios. And I've seen it all over Twitter. They're working on this pretty big and like, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but pretty well thought out and interesting MMO. To me, this seems like the perfect place for Amazon to publish their own games on their own platform. And I can almost guarantee that this is a test run for that game to go on Twitch.
Was that's New World or something?
I don't know. I can't remember the name, but I did see it quite a bit on like Twitter ads.
Yeah. Well, they've got I know they got like 3 titles they're working on right now. They've got Crucible, which is like a kind of like an Overwatch or a Valorant type game, I think. They've got, I want to say it's New World, but it looks it looks fantastic. And I forget what the other one was, but not a lot of people remember. They had at the very first TwitchCon, like major TwitchCon, they had a game there, and it was Amazon Game Studios, and they had an absolutely massive setup. Like they had an esports stage for this game that no one had ever heard of before. It was called Breakaway. And I remember walking in, it was the first thing you saw when you walked into the, I think it was San Diego Convention Center. It's the first thing that you saw. And Rhino, you probably remember this huge thing. They had an esports stage set up. They had like the whole team was there, and you could go and play behind the stage. And if you won your match, you got to go out and play on the esports stage, and they would shoutcast your game to like everybody that was at TwitchCon. And dude, it was one of the best advertising things I'd ever seen, but I loved that game. And you got a coin. It was nice. It was like a heavy coin that had like a Spartan warrior on it, and it had a beta key, or I guess it was an alpha key. And you came home, you put that key in, and you were guaranteed alpha access to the game. And I played it for a while during alpha, and then just one day, Amazon is just like, game's dead. We're shutting it down. It's over. And it was like, come on, this game is so good. It was so much fun. So I know that they've been working really hard on these other more like AAA style titles. So I kind of tend to agree with you there. I think it's definitely something that they're testing for something bigger. If you look back on some of the more fringe things that Twitch has done in the past, it kind of really just does feel like a big experiment, because all the stuff that they did before, like with Twitch Plays Pokemon and Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers and all this stuff, was all just kind of like precursors to things that are currently either rolling out or more like mainstream. Now, I wonder, having a Pac-Man game, though, there's this other angle, right? Will having a Pac-Man game attract more video game traditionalists to the platform? And Rhino, I'm going to throw that to you because you're specifically that demographic.
Yeah.
You were talking about Pac-Man 2 days ago.
I am the video game traditionalist. Yes. You know, I like my ColecoVision and my Atari, and no, I do not think this will attract video game.
It's not going to matter.
No, I don't think so. I think it's it'll attract people interested in the concept, and I do agree. I think it's there's something bigger behind the scenes that Twitch is working on. So I think if it can attract people interested in the concept and playing, and I think, you know, that's the real angle here. But no, I don't think it's meant to bring on people, Pac-Man enthusiasts.
You mean as a young boy growing up, you never dreamed of building your own Pac-Man maze and watching Pac-Man go and gobble up your little nuggets?
No, I did not.
No.
You sounded really depressed when you said that. No.
Oh, well. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with Pac-Man, but I think it's cool you can play Pac-Man through your browser. On the esports side, there was a story a while back where Overwatch moved over to YouTube, right? Left Twitch. Twitch paid like $98 million for the rights to the Overwatch League. And earlier this year, or late last year, I forget which, Blizzard announced that they would be moving the Overwatch League over to YouTube. Now, one of the first things people brought up was they said, hey, YouTube doesn't have a drops program like Twitch has. Now, for those listening that don't know what that is, drops is basically a way that if you're watching a Twitch stream, you can earn some type of virtual reward that's redeemable within the game that's being streamed. So like an example of that would be like what happened with Valorant. I think it might still be happening with Valorant, actually, whereby watching people stream Valorant for a period of time, you essentially enter kind of like this raffle where you can win a Valorant beta key, and it just gets awarded to you just by sheer virtue of you having watched long enough and your name getting pulled. Now, how this ties back to Overwatch League. During Overwatch season, the league season, viewers are able to earn these things called Overwatch League tokens. They take those Overwatch League tokens, they go back to their game, and they redeem those tokens, and they get skins, exclusive skins that can only be redeemed with those specific tokens. They're usually the skins of the teams that are competing. So it's actually a really cool feature. You think about, you know, how in traditional sports, people will buy jerseys from their favorite players and they'll wear them. Well, this is similar to that because they buy the physical jerseys. They can, at least. But in this case, they're actually buying a digital jersey that they can put on their characters in the game itself, so they can kind of rep like physically and digitally. It's kind of a neat concept. YouTube doesn't have that. So this week, Overwatch League announced, hey, you know what? Tokens are back, but you have to get them in a very specific way. You actually have to watch them through a platform, an Overwatch League specific platform where you can find the games being streamed. So that includes like the Overwatch League website, the mobile app, basically anywhere but directly on YouTube, which is just mind-boggling to me. Like, why? I just don't understand why they would even do this. I mean, obviously YouTube is going to be working on something like this, but purely from an esports org standpoint, like how do you digest this? Like, what do you do? Ace, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Man, about time. Am I right? This is Overwatch. This has been something that people have been asking for so long. And it's funny the timing that they implement it too, because just last week we were talking about how Valorant affected Overwatch and how all these pros are switching over from Overwatch. And how this has happened a few times, that Overwatch kind of had a couple bumps in the road despite being so successful. And I think the timing here is so important, but also so funny, is that they realize that there's this big audience taken away from them. So they're like, oh, we'll give everybody exactly what they've been asking for the past 2 years. And it's interesting that they did make it so complicated that you have to do it. But there's definitely something to be said for Overwatch viewers returning to Overwatch and finally having some way that they can be rewarded for watching Overwatch. I think that's super key right now.
Yeah, I feel like from a league standpoint, you cannot operate an esports league right now without having some kind of reward system for your viewers. I don't see how you can do that. So the fact that they didn't have this for a period of time, I feel like, yeah, to your point, it's complicated and sort of convoluted how you need to do it. But faced with the alternative of there's nothing else, it's kind of like, yeah, it becomes the least shitty of otherwise shitty options, right?
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what the effect is, especially during this time that Valorant is doing so well. I know that like 2 months ago, Gears of War did a similar thing on Twitch. They started dropping skins for players or viewers who were watching live games, and they saw their viewership on every Sunday that they streamed their matches pretty much multiply by 10 or 11 times what it was before. So I think there's something to be said for this for sure.
That was Gears of War?
Yeah, Gears of War, they started dropping skins on stream for viewers who are watching for a certain amount of time, and the viewership absolutely skyrocketed from there.
And they were like exclusive skins you could only get by watching the competitive play?
Yeah, so there were some pre-made skins that Gears of War had, and then there was also some skins for the organizations that were competing that were released. And I think you had to retweet one of their tweets on Twitter, and then also have a certain viewership guideline. I don't know if it was an hour or what it was, but yeah, and people went absolutely crazy over it.
Yeah, I mean, you talking like you said like 11 times. I mean, you start talking numbers like that to any of the business people that are sitting at these esports orgs, and that's gonna ring somebody's bell straight away. Like they're gonna jump to that immediately. I mean, it just seems like such an easy thing to do for such a big return.
Yeah, and not just the return for them, but I mean the players love it. Like having skins that they like to represent in game of the teams that they love. I think it really brings the whole community aspect to the esports viewership experience. So yeah, definitely important.
So do you think, because I mean, from a platform parity standpoint, YouTube has got to replicate this for obvious reasons. Like if you look at what happened with Valorant, you look at this disparity with the Overwatch League, YouTube has to have this. They're gonna add it. What happens when they add it? Do you think people who are now used to doing it through these other means for the OWL, do you think that they're going to be like, all right, well, I'll go back and do it over YouTube now? Like, will they switch again, do you think?
Man, I don't know. I think YouTube is really late to the game on this one. And like you said, like it's almost like they have to do this eventually. So my hope is that eventually people are like, yeah, this is worth it to be on YouTube and to have this identical experience from this platform that I like. But I think they really need to jump on that if they want to see those kind of results.
Yeah. So let's say let's fast forward to some point in the future where YouTube now has a drops program equivalent. Robo, would, as a YouTuber, would you be even interested in like having something like that baked? I mean, you kind of have drops now today, right? It's called ad revenue.
Ooh.
But, but like, I mean, I could see that being pretty cool for just like traditional YouTube videos too.
So you mean not live streams on YouTube, like just like normal videos?
Yeah, like just make it like just the whole platform.
Yeah, I think that would be sick actually. Like it'd be cool if, say, YouTube had a select group of sponsors that like some special partner program, for example,
Hmm.
and you have to have a certain amount of requirements. Maybe for larger YouTubers, I may be a little biased, but you know, you have to have some requirements that show that you make good content and that you have viewers, right? And then
Yeah.
what happens is you get connected to this like group of specific companies that work with this program and allow you to get drops related to their companies in your videos, if that makes sense. I think that would be sick. Basically, the equivalent of what Twitch is doing, partnering with Valorant, giving Valorant drops to people who stream it. If that could be implemented into videos where people who make videos of X game, their viewers can win a key, I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, and it would also, I think it would also do like what it did for Valorant. It would just encourage more people to want to stream it because they know if they stream, I guess in this case, make videos about it, but they know if they make videos about it and they meet these like, partner criteria thresholds, like what you're talking about, that they're going to attract viewers just by virtue of having yet another thing they can give away. And if they can monetize the video on top of that, I mean,
Yeah.
that makes all the sense in the world because then you can, you can 11x your viewership, like A said a minute ago, while also monetizing. Like, I think creators would jump all over that
Oh,
stuff.
that'd be amazing. But knowing YouTube, they're going to choke and they're going to be like, oh, we'll implement it in our live streams that nobody watches. Because for some reason, they think, oh, we have to do everything, A platform where everybody watches videos. Oh, no, that's way too simple in 2020. We need to add live streaming and we need to add all this other garbage. And, slowly skew our vision into the point where we don't know what we're becoming, excuse me. Um, it's just annoying, dude. I know YouTube is going to mess this up if they have the opportunity to do this. They always do. And I don't know why. It's depressing.
You sound like you're speaking with some historical perspective.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm not going to go on a rant here, but when you have a platform that's already one of the biggest search engines in the world, YouTube itself, not referring to Google, you have billions of users. Why do you need to put your focus into doing things like live streaming? I get it. It's capitalism. That's how it works. But why not just improve what you already have and innovate instead of just like saying, oh, Twitch has gaming live streams. Let's add gaming live streams to ours, try to sign all of these people instead of just innovating. What happened to innovation? You know? It's like
Well,
every
it's,
social media company is just leeching off of each other.
yeah. I mean, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's actually a great segue into the next story that we wanted to cover, which is the April report on viewership, and specifically how it's changed for basically everyone except Mixer. So Facebook's viewership was up 238% in April. 238%. I think we talked about them a week or two ago. They were already doing bonkers numbers as it is. Now it's just even more. Twitch was up about just over 100%, so roughly double. YouTube 65%. So there's growth. It's happening. This is on streaming, of course. This is not like necessarily traditional YouTube. It's more on the streaming side. So 65% increase. I mean, that's still a lot for the second place platform. That's still a pretty big number. Then you go and look at like actual hours watched and everything, and then of course Twitch is just way higher than everybody else. Mixer grew 0.2%. 0.2%. Basically zero, right? They it's like a starvation diet where you are just trying not to die is essentially what we're seeing right here. I don't know what's going on at Mixer. I mean, talk about Facebook first. What is Facebook doing different? How is it that Facebook, who in the beginning of 2019 was exactly in parity with Mixer, is now a completely different conversation than Mixer just a year and a few months later? What are they doing different? Have you guys watched a Facebook gaming stream?
Absolutely not.
No,
Why
I
is
have
that?
never even seen it.
I don't like Facebook. That's my reason.
Just
I
in general.
refuse to support it. Yeah, they just have way too many controversial things that happened.
Yeah, a lot of baggage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the same way.
I haven't watched it, but I will tell you this. One thing I've noticed lately, literally just in the last week, and I don't go on Facebook very much, but I've noticed in the last week, I'm seeing Facebook gaming promoted ads for like the service itself in my feed more than anything else I've ever seen before. Like it's almost the only ad I see.
They're
So, I mean,
pushing it
obviously,
heavy.
what's that?
I said they're pushing it heavy on everyone.
Well,
Even my
that
mom
is one thing.
asked for it.
That is one thing that Facebook has always done, has historically done well, which is whenever they get something new that they really want to get off the ground, they go all in on it. Like they really push it. And what's cool is like, for a lot of people, if you're like, someone new coming to Facebook and you're looking to like, I don't know, it's not really where influencers would go, but like, let's say you're looking to build a big following on Facebook outside of like your friends and family, the ship has sailed, right? There's no point in that. It's just burnt energy. However, every now and again, Facebook decides it's going to do something new. And when they do that, they go all in. And, Johnny, your next door neighbor, can get on there and actually make a name for himself on the largest platform. I mean, they're pushing what 2.25 billion users at this point, or close to 3 billion users at this point. Johnny, your neighbor, can get on there. He can live stream. He can get noticed. He can get viewers. He can get followers. He can make money. I argue faster than any other streaming platform out there right now. So that's one thing I think they do right. If they're going to do it, they go all in on it and just make it happen. Monetizing, that's not the right word. Making use of the existing audience that they have and just driving that traffic in. I guess my question is, can Facebook convert an audience that's either never heard of live streaming or just kind of like, fringe awareness of it, or people who've traditionally avoided it, can they turn them into an audience? And right now, I'm kind of curious what you think about that, man. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like every time we read these articles about the different platforms growing, it's always about talent acquisition, different people coming to the different platforms and that spurring growth. And then we just talked about Caffeine and Drake, and we know the things that have gone on between Mixer and Twitch. And I feel like in order for it to be sustainable, there's got to be something more to it. I mean, because even when that talent comes over, it's just what's the result? You're getting more eyeballs onto the platform to follow the most viewed streamers or content creators, and then the hope is that they'll stay. The viewers will stay on those platforms because they've been lured over to those platforms because of that talent. But I feel like there's got to be something more. And maybe it's, did we talk about at one point Facebook? I think recently they did something on mobile to make it easier to go live.
Yeah. They made the Facebook gaming app, I think like a specific mobile version of it or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's things like that, and discoverability, and just ease of use of the platforms that are going to ultimately outwin or out strategize the other platforms, and not just be more of a, the talent going back and forth from platform to platform. And then to go back to your question, I don't know. I mean, it's for people that don't understand live streaming. I think it's not an easy process to get them to start getting interested into it. Certainly as you reach a certain, age, I think it's much harder to attract those people into live streaming content. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's certainly worth obviously using their existing user base and advertising and pushing everything they can to try to grow that part of their business.
Yeah.
But I, you know, I don't know how successful they'll be. I think there's just a finite demographic that ultimately they'll be able to change over.
Yeah, I mean, I think their inherent benefit is, you touched on it, their audience, but then also no one's really mentioned this yet, but just that Facebook has perfected monetization. Like they can monetize anything, right? So if all they need to do is get eyeballs on it, and they will figure out ways to make money off of it. And all that stuff is just built in. It's just native to what Facebook is. I mean, it is a money making machine. So I think from a purely economic standpoint, like I think they know what they're doing. I think it's just a matter now of just getting more eyeballs in there so they can ramp up that, you know, marketing Death Star that they essentially are. But Ace, I got a question for you, because you're the Instagram guy. How do they integrate Instagram into this whole thing? Because that to me seems like the perfect gateway for that audience that's probably more prone to actually care about this medium and this type of content.
Yeah, and it's crazy that they own both and they have both of those platforms to use and maximize. And it really, I think, is huge to their success because they have Facebook with, dare I say, an older demographic, people that may not know as much about streaming or anything about streaming, and they're pushing it through their feeds and like we are saying, like just all around, making sure that they're seeing it. But then they have Instagram, their second platform, with this niche that's already established. And I think that's crazy that they have both of these platforms to use and grow off of. I think, just maybe in the future we might see something more, because right now Instagram and Facebook are pretty separate overall. Like most people don't even know that Instagram is owned by Facebook or anything like that. And I think if they play their cards right, we might see something in the future that may involve kind of a connection between the two platforms and streaming, because you can stream on Instagram or go live, and you can stream on Facebook gaming, but they're not connected. They're totally different. So I'm almost hoping that we'll be able to see some kind of merge in the content that they make.
Yeah. So as you're talking through that, I just had this crazy idea. I had a buddy of mine who was new to streaming, and I didn't even know that he streamed. I'd played games with him before, and I saw in Discord one night that he was streaming, and so I popped into his stream, and I was like, "Yo, like I didn't know you streamed." He's like, "Well," he's like, "I've been playing games so much, and I have all this free time." This is like 2 years ago. He's like, "I have this free time. I figured I'm already playing the games. Why not just stream it?" Right. And I think a lot of people listening to the show can relate to that. That's how a lot of people get into streaming. He had just started. He was like a week in, and he had like 10 viewers. And I was like, how'd you get 10 viewers so fast? He's like, "Oh, I just posted stuff on Instagram." I'm like, no. You don't just post stuff on Instagram. I'm like, what did you do specifically? Well, he was playing PUBG. He said, "I just made clips of myself playing PUBG, like highlights. I just slapped them up on Instagram, and I just threw like 20 hashtags on it." And he's like, in 2 weeks' time, roughly, I had 15 to 20 viewers,
Wow.
all of them from Instagram. And every single person you see in my chat right now who's chatting, they're all from Instagram. He's like, "Go ahead, just ask them, where'd you guys come from?" So I was like, "All right, sure, whatever." So I popped in. I was like, "Hey, did you guys come here from Instagram?" And like 10 replies, like, "Yeah, man, we found so-and-so through Instagram." I was like, holy shit. It is so simple, so easy. Anybody could do this. He's playing what everyone would call a saturated game at the time. Like they always say, like, don't play saturated games because you want to discover. Bullshit. He did it, and that's how he did it. So my thought process here, going off of what Ace was saying, is what if Facebook just made clipping and just integrated clipping seamlessly into Instagram? It was like, hey,
Yeah,
there you go.
that makes sense. Yeah.
And then what if they built intelligence on top of it to say, like, hey, we're going to optimize your hashtags for discoverability automatically, just based on this, 400 trillion terabytes of data that we have. We're going to create an AI that just optimizes all your clips for discovery on Instagram, and it costs you nothing. Just go nuts. Dude, if they did that, I guarantee you would see a migration from platforms onto Facebook overnight. You would see people switch overnight.
Oh yeah, and it's crazy because they have that opportunity. Like Twitch, most people who stream on Twitch, they either advertise their streams on mainly Twitter, but also Instagram and other platforms. But those aren't connected to Twitch. Twitch gets nothing from that. But
Yeah.
Facebook, they have this platform where people do they have the platform itself where people are streaming, and then they have the platform where people are advertising their streams, and they own both. So yeah, there's some crazy opportunities there for them.
And Facebook would prioritize that content over content that was not integrated, like posted through like another source, like posted directly versus like integrated through a stream or something.
So not only
100%.
are they driving more people to Facebook gaming, but they're also driving more people from Instagram. Maybe more of the community, if they're switching over, if this integration happens, they're not only going to switch over from Twitch to Facebook, but from Twitter to Instagram. So
yeah, I think that's the move for Facebook. I'm not one to make predictions, but I'm going to make one right now in the show. That's going to happen. I'm calling it. They're going to do it. I think it's the right move. It's the smart move. You don't have to be a big brain to figure this out, but I think that's what's going to come. Speaking of big brains, let's kind of 180 it for a minute here. What the hell is Mixer doing? Like how do you own Xbox? How do you own every PC that's out there? And how do you screw this up? Like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Honestly, you would think, like, I agree. There's so many opportunities for them to really capitalize on this. They can not partner. They could sync it up with Xbox Game Pass games, make it super easy. Because if you don't know, recently they redid the Xbox Game Pass app on Windows. It's really well made now. Why wouldn't they just literally combine Mixer into the Game Pass app? First of all, that's one option because a lot of people use it. Game Pass has, I believe, 15 million users now. It's 10 or 15. That's one option. You could also.
I thought, real quick on that, I thought Mixer was already part of it, and then they took it off.
I know. I was confused by that because I just don't get it. It would be so easy. They could even completely merge the two, because everybody knows what Game Pass is. If they somehow implement that directly into Game Pass, that's a really simple option. You know how like easy it would be to implement your own games to stream them onto your own streaming platform? Like you could even make streaming settings in game if you wanted to, and you could stream directly from the game itself.
Yeah, especially, I mean, owning a console, you set the terms, you dictate the protocol by which game developers are able to build upon your platform. So you can literally say like, hey, we're not going to make you make this a more stream friendly game, but we are going to give you in our software, our developer kit, our SDK or whatever you want to call it, we're going to give you the tools that already make that easier, and then just kind of like nudge, wink, wink, you know what to do, and then it'll just naturally work itself out. We're seeing that with Twitch, with Amazon Game Studios. All of the games that they're developing, those ones we talked about earlier, every single one of those has some element tied to streaming. Every single one of them. Amazon in this case is the perfect analog to Microsoft. Why Microsoft isn't doing this with Mixer absolutely blows my mind. Is there some strategy that's like so brilliant that we just can't see it? Like, is this like some like Superman 3 level shit and we just don't even know what's going on?
I honestly could be wrong here, but I really think there's going to be a heavy implementation with the new Xbox. Like, I think maybe that's why they're not focusing so much on it, is that they want to get their new console out. And it's because if you intertwine the world of Game Pass, your new console, and your streaming service, make it one, make the new Xbox have Mixer already downloaded on it, make your Xbox account work with Mixer on your console, like it would be such an easy user experience that it's almost stupid not to do that. It's definitely stupid not to do that.
Well, and look at every one of Xbox's competitors. PlayStation, they have really nothing going for them streaming wise.
Yeah.
Nintendo, nothing. Like Nintendo doesn't even support their own esports scene. Like they're so disconnected from that. It's just like their esports pros are literally at events on stream on camera pleading with Nintendo to pay attention to them and just give them some support. And Nintendo's just like, nah. we're too busy building like broken controllers and shit. Like it boggles the mind. Like I just can't understand it. Just to your point, like you have everything, you own every PC in the world, pretty much. You have Xbox, which is a great platform, and you go and acquire this talent, and you pay, ridiculous. I mean, in the Microsoft world, it's it's chump change, right? But you pay these ridiculous sums of money to acquire this talent, and then everything goes down the crapper, and no one can figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I almost think they're gonna have a second wave as soon as the new console comes out.
Is that this year? Is that one of the Christmas things?
Yeah, I believe it's holiday season this year.
Yeah.
And that could be something that could make the new, I don't even know what the new Xbox is called, but that could be something that makes the new Xbox stand out over the PS5, is by saying like, look, we've built a console that is extremely easy to use as a streamer. Because like right now you would need, your current console, a capture card, you then hook it up to your PC and all that stuff. If they could somehow make it directly in console, that could change the game.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it is a little bit of a stretch for someone who hasn't streamed before to get set up through a console to do it. It's not anywhere near as easy as it is on a PC. So, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just April, right? I mean, we've still got, I'm sure the May report will come out in a few weeks, and we'll talk about that and we'll see. But right now, I mean, Facebook is everybody's darling. It's going nuts. We've made our prediction. We'll see how that all shakes out. But that pretty much sums up all the stories for this week. As always, those of you that are listening, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Want to give a big thank you to my co-hosts for providing all the hard-hitting insight and analysis that they always do. The content that we cover every week on the podcast is also available in blog form over on our site. You can just find it streamkick.com or blog.streamkick.com. We call it the Roundup. Put this together every week. Collection of all the top stories from live streaming and anything esports that's also live streaming related. You'll find it there. So if you want to catch these stories and our write-ups on those stories, you can do it there. In terms of social, we are very easy to find. You can find us on Twitter at StreamKick, Instagram at StreamKick. We are also on Facebook, and of course, our website is streamkick.com. RoboKast, where can the StreamKick podcast listeners find you?
Yeah, for sure. If you guys are interested in checking it out, I make gaming content on YouTube at RoboKast, RoboKast, and I do have a Twitter, same at RoboKast.
And Ace, how about you, sir?
Yeah, if you're looking into some more esports related topics, or you're on Twitter, you can follow me at Ace Aspires.
Right on. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week, Tuesday evening on the StreamKick Podcast.